I've always loved the week before the school play. There's something about the chaos, the paint fumes, the unfinished costumes, the whispered lines under breath, that makes me feel like I'm part of something meaningful again. I've been teaching drama for 12 years. Every spring, I direct the senior showcase. This year we were doing The Crucible. Heavy, intense, maybe a little too much for teenagers, but they needed something to bite into. Something real. That's when Eli showed up. Not a student of mine. Not an actor. Just a boy with a camera. He was part of the AV club, assigned to film the performance for the school archives. I barely noticed him at first, tall, thin, always in black. A lens between him and the world. The first time he came into rehearsal, he hovered quietly at the edge of the auditorium. Didn't interrupt. Just watched. But it wasn't the stage he was watching. It was me. First I thought I imagined it. But then it kept happening. Every time I glanced over, in the middle of giving notes or demonstrating blocking, or adjusting a student's collar, his eyes were already on me. Not boldly. Not in a way that dared anything. Just constant. Curious. I caught myself that night, brushing my hair differently before rehearsal. Wearing mascara for the first time in months. I told myself it was for the parents' preview. It wasn't. It was for the way Eli's camera followed me. How, even when he panned across the room, it always settled back on me, as if he couldn't help it. As if he was capturing something he didn't fully understand yet. The students adored him. He was quiet, polite, good with lighting, always where he needed to be, and never where he wasn't supposed to be. At least that's what I thought. Until the night I asked him to stay late and help reset the stage for final tech. Just the two of us. The theater empty. The lights dimmed. The shadows long. That's when it began. Not with a touch or a kiss or even a word. But with a silence between us that felt too full. Too heavy to ignore. Too dangerous to pretend wasn't real. It happened so fast. The moment that changed everything. I was crouched behind the curtain, fixing a snagged hem on one of the students' costumes. Everyone else had left already. Eli was still in the booth, supposedly packing up. The theater was dark except for the ghost light, that single bulb left on stage so no one falls into the pit overnight. It cast long shadows across the floor. I stood up, stretched, unaware. That's when I felt it, that small electric prickle on the back of my neck. I turned. Eli was still in the balcony booth. But the red light on the camera was blinking. Recording. I stared at it for a second too long. Noticed how it was angled. Not at the stage, not at the students, not at the empty chairs. At me. I walked up the steps, careful, breath caught halfway between nerves and something else I didn't want to name. "You're still filming?" I asked. He didn't look guilty. Just calm. Composed in a way that made me feel anything but. "I forgot to stop it," he said. Didn't want to interrupt. His voice was low. Almost gentle. And then, without moving the camera, without changing expression, he said, "You look different when you think no one's watching." My pulse skipped. It wasn't flirtation. It wasn't bold. It was observation. True. Quiet. Dangerous. And he was right. Because the woman behind the curtain, the one smoothing fabric, humming softly, hair pulled loose, she wasn't Ms. Adler, the teacher. She was me. And I had no idea that anyone had been watching that version of myself for a long, long time. I stepped closer, unsure why. Maybe to turn off the camera. Maybe to close the space between us. Maybe just to see what else he would say. But he didn't say anything. He just watched me, not with lust. Not with innocence. But with knowing. As if I had already shown him something I couldn't take back. The next day he left a flash drive on my desk. No note. Just the footage. And when I played it that night alone, the file wasn't labeled. But I knew exactly what it was. A quiet reel of moments I didn't know I'd given him. Me laughing at a student's joke. Me singing softly during warm-ups. Me sitting on the edge of the stage after everyone had gone. And at the very end, the part one couldn't breathe through, a close-up of me looking directly into the lens. Still. Unposed. Seen. And not once did I look away. After I watched the footage, I couldn't sleep. Not because of what was there, but because of what wasn't. No words. No touches. No scandal. Just me unmasked. And him behind the camera, steady. Still. Sure. The next day I avoided eye contact, tried to slip past him during tech rehearsal, kept my notes short, my voice brisk. But he didn't flinch. He just kept showing up, quiet, reliable, present. And I hated how much I noticed. Every shift in his expression. Every time he lingered just a second longer after the others left. Every time his eyes tracked mine like they were waiting for permission. It wasn't physical. Not yet. But it was charged. That invisible thread between two people who haven't touched, haven't spoken of what's building, but both feel it anyway. Then Thursday, I dropped my clipboard during a lighting cue change. He was the only one who moved, bent down to hand it back, fingers grazing mine. Just for a moment. But it was enough. That flicker of contact, skin to skin, felt louder than a kiss. Felt like a boundary not broken but tested. I didn't say thank you. He didn't apologize. We just looked at each other. And in that look, I felt everything that hadn't happened, and everything that could. After rehearsal, I found a folded note taped to the top of my script. No name. No signature. Just 5 words in clean, careful handwriting. You don't have to hide. That night, I stood in front of my bathroom mirror for 20 minutes. Staring. Not at my face. But at the version of me he saw. The one who wasn't just a teacher, or a wife, or a woman past 35 with smile lines and fading mascara. But someone worth watching. And for the first time in years, I let myself wonder what it would feel like to stop pretending the line was still intact. It was the monologue scene. Act 2, when Elizabeth Proctor finally sees what her husband has become. I was blocking it alone in the auditorium. The lead actress was out sick. The rest of the cast had been dismissed early. The space felt cavernous. Every sound echoed. Every breath was louder than it should be. Eli was adjusting the backlight, high on the scaffolding. I called up to him, half joking. You memorized this yet? He laughed softly. Then from above he said, Want me to run it with you? I didn't think. I just nodded. He came down slowly, wiping his hands on his hoodie. When he walked on stage, I handed him the script. You're Proctor now, I said. And I wasn't joking anymore. I stepped back into Elizabeth's lines, voice quiet, hands clasped, pretending it was about direction, about form. But the moment he looked at me, something in the air shifted. He read his first line. Not perfectly, not smoothly, but honestly. Eyes on mine. Voice low. The words weren't his, but somehow they were. The regret. The ache. The guilt wrapped inside longing. When it was my turn to respond, my voice cracked. Not because I couldn't remember the line, but because I felt it too deeply. You take my sins upon you, John. I wasn't acting. Neither was he. He stepped closer, still holding the script. But his hands had begun to shake. I never meant to hurt you, he whispered, ad-libbing now, something not in the text. I looked at him not as his teacher, not as the director, but as a woman being seen. Fully. Finally. My hand brushed his as I reached to take the paper from him. And that simple contact? It undid me. I felt his fingers twitch beneath mine, and then hold still, like we were both waiting for someone to call cut. But no one did. The room stayed silent. And in that silence we stayed still. Close enough to feel the heat of breath between us. Close enough to want. I stepped back, broke the moment, mumbled something about lighting cues and character notes. He didn't argue, just nodded, gathered the script, walked off stage. But as he left, he paused at the door and said, not loud, not soft, You don't have to be her if you don't want to. I didn't ask who he meant, because I already knew. And for the rest of the night, all I could think about was how, for a single moment on that stage, I hadn't been Elizabeth Proctor. I'd been myself. And someone half my age, had looked at me like I was worth the fall. It was Friday. Dress rehearsal. The auditorium was buzzing with nerves, misplaced props, makeup half done. Someone crying over a missing corset ribbon. I was backstage, headset on, clipboard pressed to my chest, whispering cues into the dark like spells. Eli was filming from the wings. He'd asked to get B-roll behind-the-scenes footage for the closing credits. Laughter, chaos, soft focus moments between scenes. I said yes without thinking. I trusted him. Stupid. That's what I keep telling myself now. Stupid. Because I forgot what it means to let someone look at you, not just see you but hold the image of you in their hands. I forgot that when someone films you, they keep you. Even when you don't realize you've given yourself away. We were waiting for Act 3 to begin. The lights were down. The curtain hadn't opened yet. I was talking to one of the actors, fixing her sleeve, giving last-minute notes. And then I felt him behind me. I didn't turn. I didn't need to. His presence was always magnetic. I said, over my shoulder, "You getting anything useful?" And he said softly, "Only everything I wasn't supposed to." I smiled. I shouldn't have. And in that moment, just that, I turned. He was holding the camera low, lens angled slightly. I stepped toward him. He didn't move. And for a few seconds, long enough to matter, too short to undo, I reached out and touched his chest. Not a caress. Not even deliberate. Just contact. My hand there, his breath catching. The actor behind me giggling. "Ms. Adler has a crush," she teased. I pulled my hand back fast, the air between us suddenly sharp. "I didn't know it was filming," I murmured, my face flushing hot. He didn't blink. He just said, "I did." And then the curtain rose. The moment passed. But it didn't. Not really. Because later that night he sent me a file. No words. Just a single clip. 23 seconds. The exact moment in the wings. Me turning. Smiling. Reaching. Him breathing in like it was the first time anyone had ever touched him. And at the very end of the clip, when I thought I'd stepped away, the lens kept rolling. And he whispered into the mic, barely audible, "God, you're killing me." I watched it twice. Then 3 more times. Not because I needed to, but because I couldn't help it. And when I turned off my laptop, heart racing, hands shaking, I didn't delete it. The show closed on a Saturday. Standing ovation. Parents in tears. My students glowing with the high that only comes from applause and adrenaline. I hugged them all. Smiled like I was whole. But underneath the curtain calls and thank yous and paper flowers, I knew what was waiting. The strike. We always stay late after closing night to tear down the set. It's tradition. Pizza. Ladders. Sawdust and laughter and the hollow sadness of endings. By 9:30, the theater was nearly empty. Just me and Eli. He stayed behind to help. Volunteered before I could even ask. "I'll carry the flats," he offered. We worked in silence, the kind that wasn't awkward, just full. The kind that knew. I was pulling gaffer tape from the stage when I felt it. Him behind me again. Close. Too close. He didn't touch me. He just said softly, "Is it wrong that I don't want this night to end?" I didn't turn around. Because if I did, I wouldn't stop myself. Instead, I whispered, "Then don't let it." And that was it. The thread snapped. I heard the camera fall from his shoulder. Heard it hit the floor softly, like even gravity wanted to be quiet for what was about to happen. Then his hands. One on my waist. One at the back of my neck. Pulling me into him like a question he was finally brave enough to ask. "And me?" I answered. With my mouth. With my hands tangled in his shirt. With every inch of my body saying what my voice couldn't. Yes. 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 There was nothing gentle about it. Nothing appropriate. Just neat, sharp, breathless, hungry. We didn't speak. We didn't need to. He kissed like someone who'd imagined this 1,000 times. And I kissed like someone who never believed she'd be wanted like that again. I don't remember how we got to the dressing room. I only remember the sound of the door closing. The lock turning. The silence we wrapped around ourselves like a sin we didn't want forgiven. I remember the way he looked at me as I unbuttoned my blouse. Not like I was older. Not like I was wrong. But like I was the only thing he'd ever wanted to get right. When he touched me, slow, reverent, almost afraid, I forgot I was a teacher. Forgot I was a wife. Forgot anything except his name and the heat between us that had been building for weeks. We made love on the costume couch. God, I hate writing that. Because it wasn't supposed to be love. But the way he whispered my name as he came undone? Felt like it. After, I lay there with my head on his chest. Sweating. Spent. Shaking. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel ashamed of being wanted. Monday morning. Gray sky. Cold air. I hadn't slept. I was still wearing the bruises of that night. Not on my skin but under it. He hadn't messaged. But I didn't need him to. His presence lingered. The smell of paint on his hoodie. The memory of how soft his voice had gone when he said my name. I opened my laptop at 7:46 a.m. Routine. Habit. Something to quiet the ache. But there it was. An email. Subject line. Concern regarding after-hours access. It was from Rachel McCauley, Eli's mother. Short. Direct. Polite in that way that isn't polite at all. I understand my son has been assisting with video for the drama department. I've been made aware that he's remained on campus after hours, sometimes unsupervised. I'd appreciate clarity around what permissions were granted and by whom. I'd also like to know if other students were present during these late rehearsals. Please advise. I read it twice. My mouth went dry. Unsupervised. She didn't accuse. Not directly. But the implication was there, buried under layers of maternal suspicion. Worse than anger, doubt. And with it, a seed. One that could grow into something dangerous. My hands trembled on the keys as I typed a reply. Neutral. Professional. Cold. Thank you for your message. Eli was assisting as part of his AV club duties. On each occasion, he was invited with staff knowledge. Any after-hours work was conducted in accordance with safety protocols. Please let me know if you'd like to speak further. I didn't send it. Not right away. I just sat there, staring at the blinking cursor, thinking, this is how it ends. Not with fire, but with questions. With someone watching. Later that day, Eli passed me in the hallway, backpack slung low, camera case bouncing at his side. He didn't smile. But as he brushed past me, just close enough that no one would notice, he whispered, I think she knows. I didn't respond, because I couldn't. Because everything that had felt beautiful now felt like it was on the verge of burning. And I didn't know yet if I'd run into the fire or away from it. He waited for me in the editing suite. After school. Lights low. Door unlocked but closed. I knew the moment I walked in that something was ending. He didn't look up. Just sat there, hunched over the keyboard, eyes hollow, lips pressed in a thin line. The screen glowed with paused footage. I saw my own face in the frame, lit by the ghost light. Smiling. Still. Frozen in that moment before we crossed the line. He hit play. And I watched it again. The moment in the wings. My hand brushing his chest. That breath he took sharp like it had surprised him too. The moment I hadn't been able to stop watching. Then he opened a folder marked Final Cut. And hit delete. I flinched. Not because I didn't want him to, but because I knew what it meant. He was choosing to erase us. To protect me. To disappear the evidence of something we both wanted to keep. But couldn't. He turned to me finally. I had backups, he said. But I wiped them all. I nodded. But it felt like someone had scraped something from inside me. Not anger. Not regret. Just loss. You're sure? I asked even though it wasn't a question. He looked at me, and for the first time since the dressing room he looked young. Tired. Heartsick. But certain. I'd burn the whole school down before I let anyone hurt you. God. That sentence. I wanted to cry. Kiss him. Beg him not to be so good. But all I said was, you shouldn't have to. He reached across the desk. Took my hand. Not like a boy grabbing for something forbidden, but like someone saying goodbye. I know it's over, he said. I just didn't want someone else to decide how it ended. And then he let go. Stood. Left the room without another word. And I sat there in that dim light, surrounded by empty folders and a screen gone dark, feeling like I just watched myself vanish. It was supposed to be routine. Just a check-in. That's what the email said. Quick follow-up AV documentation and student presence during rehearsals. Principal Denning would like to meet tomorrow.
No panique. No acquiescence.
But I felt it. The shift. The difference between curiosity and suspicion. I wore my best blazer. Hair neat. No makeup. I didn't want to look like I was hiding behind anything. Principal Denning was already seated when I arrived. So was the vice principal. That was the first warning sign. He smiled. Not warm. Not cold. Just practiced. Thanks for coming, Ms. Adler. Just wanted to clear up a few things. He asked about the rehearsal schedule. About after-hours access. About why Eli had been granted filming privileges outside club supervision. I kept my voice calm, even professional. He volunteered extra hours. He was respectful. Always worked in shared spaces. Never alone. He nodded. Then the questions got quieter, sharper. Did you ever meet with Eli outside of rehearsal time? Did any physical contact occur between you and Mr. Macaulay, even if accidental? Is there any footage that might be misinterpreted? Each word felt like a blade wrapped in velvet. Elite. Of course I lied. I said what any woman would say if she tasted something forbidden, and knew the whole world was ready to call it poison. Nothing inappropriate happened. He's a student. That's all. I kept professional boundaries. I don't remember what they said after that. Just the way they looked at me, not with certainty but with the possibility of certainty. Like they didn't have proof yet, but they didn't need it. They just needed to keep digging until the ground gave way. When I left the office, my knees were shaking. Not from fear, but from grief. Grief for something that hadn't even ended with a goodbye, only with deletion. As if what we'd shared was just a corrupted file. Something to erase before it infected anything else. That night I didn't eat, didn't sleep. I just sat on the floor of my living room, staring at the empty USB port in my laptop, and wondering, what would they say if they knew the truth? That it hadn't been a fling. Not a fantasy. Not coercion. But two people lost at the same time, reaching for the only light in the room. The investigation went nowhere.
No proof. No confession.
Eli kept his mouth shut. So, did I? He graduated early, switched electives, avoided me in the hallways like a boy who'd learned how quickly devotion can become danger. And I told myself I was relieved. I told myself that silence meant survival. But I didn't feel saved. I felt vacant. Weeks passed. I busied myself with spring additions, parent conferences, a new crop of wide-eyed freshmen. But every night I came home to that same silence. The kind that used to feel like safety and now just felt like punishment. Then one afternoon I opened a folder on my school drive. Final cutters from Macaulay Archive movie. No title. No timestamp. Just a file quietly sitting there, buried under a dozen renamed rehearsal clips. I shouldn't have clicked, but of course I did. It opened to black, then static, then me. Not on stage, not in the wings. Just me, alone in my classroom, drinking tea, fixing a scarf, laughing softly at something someone said off camera. Unscripted, unaware, real. And over it, layered faintly beneath the video, was his voice. Not performed, not rehearsed, just spoken like he was talking to someone who might one day need to remember. She didn't do anything wrong. She didn't ask me for anything. I loved her before I even understood what love was supposed to be. And maybe I ruined her for it. But if I did, I hope she knows. She saved me first. That was it. No climax. No confession. Just those words. A message he never meant me to find. Or maybe, the only one he ever did. I sat in my empty classroom until the sun went down, crying not because I regretted him, but because I finally understood. Some stories don't end with scandal. Some end with silence, scars, and memory. And the memory was mine now. To carry. To hide. To keep. Forever.